In this video, we are going to look at the next two headings in the 3D Viewport's main menu. These are Select and Add. We have covered many of the Select options in the video number 11 Object Selection, and you should watch that video for a more detailed description of the first few Select options given here. All, or the keyboard shortcut A, selects every object in the scene except items that have been hidden or made unselectable. None, or Alt-A. All currently selected objects become unselected. Invert, or Control-I, reverses the selected group. Items that are selected before choosing this option become unselected, and those that had been unselected become selected. Box Select, or B, allows us to define a box volume. All items that fall wholly or partially within that area are selected. Hold down the Shift key while making the selection to add to the current selection. Hold down Control to deselect the items in the box area. Circle Select, or C, creates a draggable circle within the 3D viewport. Objects whose origin falls at any time within the circle area as it is dragged are selected. The circle's diameter can be adjusted using the mouse wheel. To exit this option, we can press the Escape key or the right mouse button. The Lasso Select option allows us to enclose an irregularly shaped selection area. The lasso variations are implemented here in a slightly different manner than they are in Toolbar's Lasso.
The various lasso choices are given here in a submenu, whereas in the toolbar, these are selected in the Tool Settings area.
Set selects those objects whose origin falls within the lasso area. Any previously selected objects outside that area are deselected. Extend or Shift and Drag adds objects in the enclosed area to the current selection. Subtract or Control and Drag removes objects in the enclosed area from the current selection. Difference combines the existing selection with the enclosed area, but deselects any object that was already selected and is also in the enclosed area. Intersect, or Shift Control and Drag, selects only those items that are in both the current selection and new selection. Select All by Type allows us to select all objects of a given type. The types themselves need to be selected from the submenu. At this stage, most of the types are unfamiliar to us, but we could, for example, select all the lights in this scene. The last Op panel has a Extend checkbox, which will retain the previous selection along with the newly specified type.
Select Active Camera selects the camera currently being used when we render an image or animation.
Select Mirror refers to a topic for a later video. Select Random selects a random set of items in the scene. The last Op panel gives us 3 additional parameters. Ratio specifies the percentage of objects in the scene to be selected with 1 being equivalent to 100%. We need not go into the details of exactly how a computer generates a random value, in this case to help it select specific items in the scene, but all we need to know is that the seed value affects the generation of that random value.
Action allows us to choose between randomly selecting objects from the scene or deselecting objects from the current selection.
Select More or Less can be used when selecting objects that are in a parent-child relationship.
More adds the parent and children of each currently selected object.
Less deselects the objects at the boundaries of the current selection. You might find the result of this operation difficult to predict. Parent selects the parent of each currently selected object, but also deselects that current selection. Child selects the children of the current selected objects and deselects the originally selected objects. Extend Parent adds the parent of each currently selected object to the current selection. Extend Child adds the immediate children of each currently selected object to the current selection. Select Grouped is used to select objects that are linked in some way. The grouping options are given in a submenu. Children selects all the descendants of the active object. That is to say, children, grandchildren, and so on. Immediate Children selects the active object's children, but not children of later generations. Parent selects the parent of the active object. Siblings selects the objects with the same parent as the active object.
Type selects all objects that are of the same type as the active object.
Most of our objects will be of type Mesh, but we also have Camera and Lights, which are classes in their own right. The various types are listed in the Add menu. Collection selects all the objects in the same collection as the active object. Ignoring Hook and Pass, we come to Color. This selects all objects whose color matches the active object. When we use the term color here, we're not referring to any material that may have been assigned.
Instead, this option refers to the color assigned on the Properties Editor's Object page under the Viewport display heading in the Color field.
Keying Set refers to animation keyframes, so we'll skip this option. Light Type selects all the lights of the same type as the active object. Of course, this assumes that the active object is indeed a light. Light types were mentioned in Video 1 and are Point, Spot, Sun, and Area. Select Linked selects other objects that share a data block with the active object. What type of data block the items share is selected from the submenu. Object Data will select other objects that share an object data block. In effect, this means that it will select other objects that have been created using the Alt-D duplicate option. Material will select other objects that have been assigned the same material as the active object. Since an object can be assigned multiple materials, only one material in a tested object need match for that object to be selected. If the active object has more than one material, Blender matches with objects that have the active object's highlighted material. Instanced Collection. This option ties in with an entry in the Add menu, which we cover in the second part of this video, so we'll wait till then to explain this option. The remaining options will have to wait until later videos when we've covered the relevant topics. Select Pattern is used to select objects in the scene whose name matches the value given in the Pattern field of the panel that appears when this option is selected. Use the asterisk character to represent any sequence of characters. For example, S*E will match with any object whose name starts with S and ends with E. Use a question mark to represent any single character. For example, C***, question mark E will match with any four-character word that starts with C and ends with E. When we want one character to be from a specified set, then we need to enclose that set in square brackets. For example, here the last character can be either a 1 or a 2. When a character must not be from a specified set, enclose the characters in square brackets as before, but this time start with an exclamation mark. In this example, the last character must not be a 1 or 2. Check the case-sensitive box if you want the search to be case-sensitive, and check the Extend box if you want the result to be added to the current selection. The third heading in the 3D Viewports menu is Add. The first entry here is Mesh. This is the one that we've been using since we placed our first cube in a scene. We make use of this option to add mesh primitives. We'll skip the next 8 entries in the menu since they relate to object types we haven't encountered yet. Empty allows us to add an empty object. As we saw in video 29 when we used an empty to create a spiral staircase, an empty has no visible presence in a rendered scene and its normal purpose is to control some other object. Skipping Image, we come to Light, which allows us to add new lights to our scene. We mentioned the types of light available in Blender way back in video 1, but we'll be doing a more in-depth video on that subject later. Camera adds another camera, and this is yet another topic for a future video. It's easy enough to create a duplicate of an object in our scene, but Collection Instance will make a copy of all the objects in a collection. The sub-menu names each collection in the current project. Clicking on one of these will duplicate all the objects in that collection.
To demonstrate the purpose of an entry in the Select menu that we skipped earlier, we'll make 2 more copies of the floor light. Then select one of the copies. Now, let's go back to the Select menu. Choose Select Linked and Instanced Collection. Blender will select all the other copies that have been made of the floor light.